So, the topic which I am covering is the hyper-converged infrastructure and the B&Ks journey, how we started this and how we moved and how we rolled out the entire hyper-converged project. So I hope everybody is aware of hyper-converged infrastructure. And I will cover entire thing like from what is the traditional IT, how the IT has moved in last few years from a traditional IT to converged infrastructure to hyper-converged, and how the world is moving. And then I will take few slides on how we have moved, how the project initiated, and how the other stuffs happen. Right. So typically, when we talk about the platform, when we talk about the IT infrastructure, how it has gone, there has been the world has moved from a traditional IT. We started in the last 15 years, 17 years, 20 years back from a traditional IT infrastructure. Then we moved to converged infrastructure, and then slowly to hyper-converged infrastructure. In traditional, this is the total movement from traditional IT and all those things. So now we'll discuss what are the challenges and what are the complexity in the traditional IT infrastructure. Typically in the traditional IT infrastructure, you have lots of challenges pertaining to the buys, challenges you don't know, you are not purchasing, or you are not clear about the predictions, you are not very sure about what is growth and other things. So that creates a problem because the buy this thing. Then there's a deployment is always a challenge. Deployment is sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it takes months. There's a lots of big footprints for the entire things. The management is also a typical a challenge where you have multiple management spares, multiple manual operations, other stuffs. Then the growth, that's another one challenge where we don't know. The prediction is a challenge. You don't know what is the growth in 1 year, 2 years, and you are not able to plan it properly. And then again, you have this takes in a phase ways where you have multiple vendors, multiple OEMs, so the support becomes a challenge. Sometimes you have a X, Y, Z, other different vendor. So then challenge supporting from one vendor to other vendor and the interdependency. Though these are the typical challenges or complexity which we have, everybody has faced whenever we are deployed any infrastructure. So, so now from traditional to converged, we moved in say 2005, 2008, 10. From last 5 years, 4, 5 years, now we are moving from converged to hyper-converged infrastructure. Hyper-converged infrastructure was typically started its footprints, started its activity in 2012, 13, or maybe in 13 onwards, where the this thing comes up. Before that, we have a converged hyper infrastructure, which was having a three-tier infrastructure, which everything was there in different portions. You have LAN, you have WAN, you have software-defined everything. So you have SAN, WAN. So everything was in different packages. So that was a challenge. You have to upgrade as a package instead of single upgrade. You have then slowly we moved on to the hyper-converged infrastructure. The hyper-converged, these are the challenges which were there in which was in converged and hyper-converged structure. In converged structure, you have servers, you have different servers, storage was different, network was different, and all these components were always in silos. You never know what is happening in each and every component. So you need to have sometimes you need to have a expert for those infrastructure, whether how to take which is there. And the worst part or the biggest problem for the senior guys or CIOs were that you were always in a firefighting mode, you were always in the maintenance mode. So the innovation or the new upgrades or new technology challenges where you were always having a less time, and every time it's a maintenance mode, it's a firefighting mode. But what comes with the hyper-converged infrastructure is elasticity, flexibility, you have a rapid developments, and you have the complexity goes down. So these are the challenges what were there in the converged infrastructure, and that is why we moved from a converged infrastructure to the hyper-converged infrastructure. So typically, then when we put our last 15 years in one single slide or one single footprint, this is the traditional IT which we started, which was sometimes on premises or sometimes off premises. So you had a server, you have storage, networking, power, cooling, everything in different way. Then we slowly moved into convergence, virtualization. From virtualization, the world started moving from a flash drive to hyper-converged infrastructure, and now it is a completely now we are moving from a hyper-converged instruction to the entire automation. So where the even the infrastructure is now all going into automation mode. Shit. Okay, sorry. Okay. This is where the entire infrastructure is now moving out. And this infrastructure can be on a hosted cloud model, private cloud model, or whatever model is there. For infrastructure, the model is not so critical, but the entire flow is really how it moves is the more important. So that then we will discuss how the hyper infrastructure should be delivered, what is the expectations. The first expectation, it should be very agile. The provisioning or other activities people expect in hours. Now the business demands in a real-time server on demand, infrastructure on demand. So is that infrastructure available to handle the demand in hours, not the weeks or the months which we used to handle it. It should be very simple. You don't need a skilled people like earlier. We used to have a storage guy expert. You used to have a network specialist, switch specialist, or a server specialist. So the entire infrastructure should be so simple that even smaller, the middle level or junior level people can manage it in a proper way. You don't need a large IT people in the team to manage each and every component. It should be very secure, because now last few years the security has taken a big step. Everybody's worried about the security, whether it's internal, whether it's external thing. So the infrastructure should be very secure. Another point is, the biggest point is which comes with the agility, is the scale out. Whatever you want to upgrade, whenever you want to upgrade, it should be very easily to upgrade component wise every time. So that is one of the infrastructure expectations or deliverable, what is required nowadays, and that is where we are moving. Everybody's moving to HCI. What are the benefits? The benefits, it's very simple. Large turnkey, you can manage the large turnkey projects easily. Then it's a single pane, it's a single vendor support. The biggest advantage is that the infrastructure, that is all the components are managed by a single vendor, whether it is storage, whether it's a compute, whether it's switches, whether it's and network components, or disks and everything. So it is managed by single vendor support. So you expect a high level of automations, you expect a lot of things from advantages are there. Then scalability is one of the biggest advantage. That is it's scale. You can scale in very fast in a cluster way, and then since you can scale in a very fast and as you wish, you are always having advantage pay as you grow, so that it doesn't hit your economics, it doesn't hit your capex opex on the day one. So that is one of the advantage or the benefits of the virtualization or hyper-converged structure. The other part is it comes with the securities, automations, and self-healing other components, which are another things which we look forward from the hyper-converged infrastructure. Let's move on to what is exactly hyper-converged structure, what is expected. It's a three-tier infrastructure model. It's a compute network, and everything is a compiler simplified. And one of the best care of this thing is that the storage arrays are eliminated. Whatever storage arrays which used to happen in earlier level, you had dependence on the various clusters and various arrays. So that part is eliminated in this hyper-converged infrastructure. When we come on another advantage of the biggest advantage of hyper-converged infrastructure is a software-defined storage. SDS is the buzzword. SDS is the next thing happening in this world. So what advantage is that you can create a pool, you can create each appliances on a running thing, and the SDS configuration, SDS management is a very simply. It's when you compare, it's very simple when you compare from the traditional storage this thing. So you have VMs, you have a storage, you have everything in a single box. So that management, that becomes a seriously very easy things for the entire infrastructure model. So the entire thing, the HCI moves on a SDS components, or it's a software defined. So that is the difference how it moves out. And another thing is that difference between this and the other infrastructure, whether it's a traditional, whether it's a converged infrastructure, is that it's a granular scale as you need. That whatever is scale, whenever you want to upgrade the scale, you can upgrade it, whether it's in terms of a workload, whether it's storage, whether it's another thing. So software defined, the purchase, You can do as a whenever the project needs it, as in when the project needs a scale out, you can further can do it, and you have a provisioning which can which can suffice for 3 years, 5 years as per your plans. And the upgrades are, you just keep on adding the, if you are stage with this thing, you just keep on adding the clusters. So typical hyper converged structure comes with the 3 clusters. I will take that slide later, but that if you are finished with, if you are completed with the cluster, you can just add one more cluster. So that helps you to in the planning out everything. So then, like scale out, whatever you want to add, you keep on adding the storage and keep on adding the various things, and the SDS will take care of entire thing. So. And the other advantage of the HCI is that important thing is that it's a fast time to the value. It's that you have a, since it comes with a single box, whether it's a apps, whether it's a hypervisor, whether it's SAN, whether it's a compute. So sorry. So you can define your policies, you can define your profiles easily, and it's a on a single click also. Your hardware, HR cluster, rating, your tiering, your LUNs, masking, everything. It's on a single in a single box, single interface. So it comes with a lot of simplicity and lot of value to the time. Whether it's you can move fast. Earlier, when in converged infrastructure, you had to add different module, different what you say, component-wise dependency, and there was OEM dependency. In hyperconverged, the sizing is the biggest advantage. You reduce it, this advantage helps you in reducing the time to go to market, and also the installation takes few hours only. Typically, in all the installations of one or any component or any cluster or anything, it should take hours, not even hours. It takes you days and the weeks sometimes to do entire things. Now, the single platform gives you, the single console gives you to do the works in hours actually. So that you help the business to grow on the business, and the IT is more faster in align with the business. With these types of advantage, if we summarize is that the IT operation, we are discussing last 2 days about today and yesterday, the IT operations. The IT operations become so easy because you have everything on a single console. Your troubleshooting becomes easy. Your provisioning becomes easy. Your consoles your dashboards will tell you that what are the upgrades are required, what are the refreshes required. Most of these hyperconverged products comes with the auto upgrades and all those things. You don't even need to put your plan for the weekends or everything. The vendors claim that don't spoil your weekends in office for the upgrades or for the patch management, everything. You can do it on fly actually. So this is the advantage, is the operational advantage. It's so simple that you don't need, again I come to same point, you don't need multiple people, various people to manage the entire thing. One people or two people can manage the entire show, which earlier used to have 10 people. Actually, we had done that way. So my 8 people team has now become 2 people. That is after this thing. But there's again everything comes with the challenge. It's not everything. The life is not so simple. So even the hyperconverged comes with the little bit of challenges of here and there. There are some, the biggest challenge and the biggest concern or the challenge is the vendor lock-in. You are getting a product from a single OEM, single vendor. So there are some serious challenges, and the risk comes with that. The biggest risk is that your hardware, software, storage, everything is a single vendor. Is that vendor capable of doing everything? Is that strength? What are the upgrades? Upgrades, again, you are dependent on that particular OEM. Sometimes that OEM is not so fast to get it, and some other OEMs give the fast. Like you all know, for storage, you are always working with whatever vendor. For a compute or for the entire thing, you are working with some different vendor. So this sometimes become a risk that you are totally dependent on one particular OEM for all the things. So this comes with a challenge. Another point which is a challenge which a concern or challenge in the hyperconverged structure is that how the vendor is adaptable to the new technology. Every day the technology is becoming old. Every new technology is getting obsolete in 1 year or 2 years or 6 months. So is that vendor comes with the support of how fast is on the taking the new challenges, new technology upgrades. So that we need, whenever you're selecting a hyper-converged infrastructure, you need to be very careful on that selection. Then when you talk to these vendors, they always say that since everything comes with a single package, it is a customer advantage and advantage. But the thing is that the fact of life is that it's not every time the customer advantage. The vendor itself is doing the same thing for them, making their own profits. So these vendors, when it is, whether irrespective of any name, some vendors are very strong on virtualization, some are very strong on on a storage, someone's very strong on the compute. But now everybody wants to do everything. So those the areas which were there not strength, now they are selling that. So ultimately they are making profit on that product which they could not sell in earlier stages. So that is another challenge. The another bigger challenge is this vendor itself. If there is a financial problems or acquisition things in the small vendors, then your technology is still yourself are on a stake, because now you had moved everything on hyper-converged, your infrastructure has become very thin, and all of a sudden if that particular vendor is having some challenges here and there due to financial, due to it has been acquired by some other vendors, then it is a serious, you are heading for a serious problem. So this also need to be considered when you are selecting a hyper-converged infrastructure. And the challenge which might come, which people have faced, is that as a customer, if we become out of favor from that particular vendor due to any reason, due to pricing and all those things, then the support will also become a challenge, because you are not a priority customer, or suppose they have another focus on the other customer, or you are small enough. So you don't have an option. You are dependent totally on that particular OEM or that particular their partner. So these are the challenge you need to be very careful while selecting and while going ahead on the hyper-converged infrastructure. So this was a complete background of the technology, how the technology has moved from last 15 years from a traditional IT to converged infrastructure, from converged infrastructure to hyper-converged infrastructure. So I covered almost everything which brings the entire technology, how that has each and every breakup of the modules, each and every breakup of this thing. Now I will cover a few points, how we started our journey and how we moved from traditional IT to the hyper-converged infrastructure. This is our typical infrastructure, is the sheet which we were having. We were having lots of VMs, we were having lots of standalone servers, we are having lots of other stuff. So this is where we start. That was our starting points. Some of them are standalone servers, some of them are VMs, some of them are my already on a single cluster or this thing. So what we did is that we selected a particular a vendor, particular OEM. This is our entire project scale or layout. We had this is the and to use infrastructure of hyper-converged structure, and we took a 10 gig server. This is a 10 gig entire network structure, which is backed by our core switch on the LAN, and this switches are connected to the other entire infrastructure. So this is our complete infrastructure from almost 1.5 for almost 40 U of the server space. This we moved out to 2 U simple. When we started this is our journey. We started, these are some sheets or some are the fact sheets which I'm sharing, how we started. We being a PMP professional, we drill down to each and every line item, task and activity level, so that everything is planned and how it is done, and everything is on dashboard on a project management system. And we drill down to each and every line item so that nothing is missed out. And this is the status at the end of the week when everything actually is done, and everything, the configurations and every stuff. So this is say after say 4 weeks, this is the green and the green and the amber and the black. They were moved within the 4 weeks. All the cluster, all the products, all the servers. These are the system moves, and entire things were having you can look into it. What are the IPs, what the RAMs we configured, what are the CPU usage, and what is the memory usage. These are the different parameters we had during these 4 weeks, after the 4 week. And this is This is the destination. If you had seen the earlier sheet, there were lots of other things. And this is after 10 weeks, we arrived this status where all the reds were moved to a single box of 2U. So when you have, if I go back to that sheet, if for just so this is the journey. So these are these various stakes or the various servers. We started with this standalone and everything. After 8 weeks, we arrived here. So entire stuff, these reds were moved to a hyperconverged infrastructure. So this is our journey from week 1 to week 10, I think. So within 10 weeks, we moved 48 VMs to a single server, single box. So I'll finish this thing with this is our breakup of various activities. This is the entire various, which the sheet was there, how the entire network structure was done here. And this is from those things, we had moved to a 2U of the component. So from almost 40U, we moved to 2U. This is where how we entire scale out our project from inception to the closure. The inception and the planning took around 4 weeks, and the go live from execution mode, from the operational mode, it took around 10 weeks. So around 4 to 6 weeks of the planning, vendor selection, coming to the right sizing, right platform, right activities, and the complete back-end planning, and the execution to go live to entire things. Today we are the only broking house in India who went live on one of their product on the trading platform, the HFT and algo trading also. The journey has been good. Lots of challenges, lots of activities, lots of learning, and this is where you learn and you keep on growing. That's our B&Ks journey, how we moved from a traditional IT to the hyperconverged infrastructure. I hope it makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. It was a different insights about, and if you look at the the presentation, we talked about centralization, we talked about convergence, and this industry is very specific. I'm very close to the industry for probably more than 10 years. When you trade, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to deal with a microsecond difference. If even if you have a microsecond difference, your trades will differ. Somebody else will take the cake and walk away. And you look at the sensitivity of the entire activity, a microsecond difference is going to probably put you into either a profit of some few hundred crores or few crores. Am I right?
The biggest thing is the deal is lost. The entire algos work on the opportunity, seen opportunity and grabbing and executing it. And entire thing goes into your microseconds and the milliseconds. We cannot have a downtimes or RTO, RPOs on the trading platform, anything. We have a real-time HA availability. So that is where the complexity is there. And to address that, I mentioned that we move one setup on the hyperconverged. So we have a multiple setup of the trading platform running live, and the migration is literally real-time. If there is some outage due to any reason, whether it's a telecom, whether it's an infrastructure, so that the complexity is a serious challenge. If you go any other verticals, the RTO or RPO of few minutes is acceptable by the business, by the management. In the trading platform, you're talking in the millisecond and microsecond actually. Now the exchange are claiming to move into nanosecond actually in next by 1 year. They are moving to 40 gig switches actually. Many people are still on a 1 gig switch. I don't know how many have completely gone to 10 gig switch, but the world is now moving to a 40 gig infrastructure. That's a serious challenge we have it.
Thank you. So, looking at, please give him a big hand. So, anybody who is aware, what is the amount of value traded in the Indian securities market? Any wild guess? Whether rupees में है, crores में है, कितना है? How many crores? I can't hear. Thoda, breakfast should speak. 1 lakh crore. Yes, you are almost close to that. So it's approximately 125, 130. Depends upon the dial of the day, but this is the value. And if you see, in at least if you look at the capital markets today, it runs from 9:15 in the morning to 15:30 in the afternoon. So divide that by, you know, the number of so-called crores which you have said, and you see what the value of each minute versus each second, and then you realize what type of infrastructure is required to make sure that there is resilience, uptime, availability, and performance. Thank you so much, Mr. Mittal. Thank you. Yeah, that's yours.